I'm recording this lecture because we had a little bit of a different day in class today, so today's lecture is going to be actually pretty short. The reason why is because we spent about half the class period talking about the events that happened yesterday. If you have any questions whatsoever about the events that happened or want clarity on what different things mean that you've seen in the media, please let me know. Just send me a message and I'll explain them to you. But we're going to have a bit of a shorter lesson because of that, because we just had such an active discussion during class. If you notice, if you already looked today, originally this said to complete the entire activity. That has been changed. So you're only going to be creating the American Progress activity in just a moment. We'll do the final portion next class period, and those due dates have already been changed. So we're going to go ahead and start today by going ahead and opening up this assignment. Go ahead and file and make a copy. And we're going to start by finishing up the West. So last class period we talked about the West, and we talked about the movement West and Native Americans and boarding schools. And now we're going to kind of culminate this into an activity around a painting called American Progress. Before we start though, a couple of things I wanted to remind you. The midterm is coming up. I'm going to be sending these out in just a few minutes in terms of like my timing about the sign-ups to be able to take this exam if you are a distance learner. Don't forget that the midterm is 28 multiple choice, 2 SAQs, and 1 LEQ. It does not go in quarter 2 grades, and everybody should end with a 100%. This is trying to tell you and give you information of how well you are doing in the class. A couple things to note, however, about this midterm. If you are a distance student, you will need to sign up in order to be able to take it in person. It cannot be distributed online. It cannot be taken home. Everything has to be done in person. If you are unable to be in person, then you will have to do the makeup option, which I will explain also in the email that I'm going to send in just a little bit. So just watch out for that so that you can be able to sign up for the exam. So we're going to start by talking about this interpretation of this poem. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, sorry, real quick. Don't forget that tomorrow your Not So Typical is due. And then the populism assignment as well as the Indian boarding school assignment. If you need more time to be able to complete that, I'm going to be putting those on quarter 3 grades. But just don't forget that you have something due tomorrow. That's the most important thing. Okay, anyways, American Progress. So we're going to finish up by talking about this painting called American Progress. And nobody really knows what American Progress means because the guy who created it, John Gast, he passed away before it became popular. Once it became popular, nobody's quite sure what it means, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Go ahead and on your paper, I want you to answer these 3 questions that are on your paper based on the image that you are seeing on the right. So think about what are 3 things that you're noticing, what are colors in this painting, and what do you think the image is in the center of the painting. Go ahead and pause this video and complete that right now. Now that you've completed that, let's look at a couple of things that you're noticing. Notice Lady Liberty, for example, is in the center, so you can see she has these like nice flowing head. You know she's a girl. I kind of spoiled it for you because I said it on accident, my bad. You have all these people. Think about what this city is right here. They're moving left, which means they're probably moving west. This is actually New York over here. You can tell by its shape in the Brooklyn Bridge. You have this technology. Notice she's holding telegraph wires, not telephone. And you have all this farming that is down here on the bottom as well. Now I want you to go ahead and do the same thing. I would think it's like bright and airy and things like that. Now let's look at this painting. And go ahead and do the exact same. This is the left side of the painting. And then go ahead and answer the questions. Okay, so what are some things you're noticing in this image? So notice, for example, that you have people that are moving west. You can see that there's Native Americans that are kind of like running. You can see a hunter right here with the bear. It's very dark, it's very dreary. Notice that you have water over here. This is the Atlantic Ocean, which means this is the Rocky Mountains. You have the buffalo right here. I always like to point out these like little white things. These are actually dead buffalo. And now let's look at the entire painting together. So this is what the entire painting is going to look like. And again, it's called American Progress. It's kind of your interpretation of what you think American Progress actually means from this image. One thing I want to notice is, again, you notice this Lady Liberty at the center because she's holding the Bible and she has the star. This image, by the way, I'm going to show you a clear image. It's not the one I like to show first because you'll notice that the colors are really washed out, especially on the left-hand side. But this is going to show you a little bit more of the specifics of what you are seeing in this. Again, I don't like to show this at the start because the coloring is all incorrect, so it all looks like super bright and stuff like that. But you can kind of compare that to this and think about what is American Progress? What is the symbolism here? Go ahead and answer the last 2 questions. There's no right or wrong answer on an exam. You would just say the purpose of this document is to pro manifest destiny, or anti, and then you would just support that with evidence. Okay, go ahead and open up your new notes, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start into our next section. So we're going to go from the Old West, and we're going to focus on now industrialization. So when we talk about industrialization, I want you to think of innovation. So I want to give you an example. So my younger brother and myself, we love Xbox. I actually owned the original Xbox. We got it 1 week after the Xbox was released, and so I love Xbox. That's my gaming platform that I play on. Well, my brother is also really into gaming. He's really good into Xbox. And he wanted a new controller a couple years ago for Christmas. So he asked my parents for the controller, and what they decided to do is they decided to buy him a custom controller for Christmas. So I want you to think of this. Let's pretend this is a wired controller. How much do you think this cost on Amazon? This was 2 years ago, so it might be a little bit different. So this cost $32.98. Well, this is the controller he got. I want you to think. How much do you think it cost? About $138. Now, you might say, what is the reasoning? I want you to think in your head why it would cost so much more money to get this versus this. Now, think about it in terms of custom making. This is all created custom. It's not mass produced. People took time, energy to be able to produce this to create this controller. And so that's what's causing it to be so increased. And prior to what's called the Second Industrial Revolution, everything was super expensive because it was all custom made. There was no mass production. Well, the Second Industrial Revolution, if you want to go ahead and highlight, was the rapid industrialization. So there's rapid industrialization at this time period and all these various inventions. The most famous inventions, if you want to highlight, are the Transcontinental Railroad and the Bessemer process. We will talk about that extensively later. Although if you're in AP World, you should already know what that is. So the really big phrase that we're going to talk about, and again, we're only going to introduce this and then we'll focus on it more next class, is going to be what is known as the Gilded Age. So the Gilded Age was a term coined by Mark Twain in a book, and let me explain what the term gilded means. I want you to think if you had a horrible, horrible day at school and you just want a break and you come home to your mom and you're complaining and you're like, please, can I just go get some Oreos? And they said, sure, and they go get you some Oreos and they bring you this. And we all know that feeling of having the store brand come when you were expecting the normal brand. You expected one thing and were given another. Imagine, for example, if you asked for an iPad and this is what you got, or if you asked for a Nintendo Switch and this is what you got. All of these are examples of things where you expected one thing, but it was actually something else inside. Think about if you've ever found fool's gold. Is fool's gold worth anything? No, it's not. And yet, it's shimmering, and it's shiny, and you think it's worth a whole bunch of money. And think about it as well, like as that little kid who finds it and you think you're going to become rich, and it's worth absolutely nothing inside. And that's what the idea of the Gilded Age is. The Gilded Age is the period after industrialization where it felt like it was shimmery, shiny, beautiful on the outside, and yet corrupt and bad on the inside. And so the Gilded Age is shiny on the outside and bad on the inside. Now, when we talk about gilded itself, that term actually comes from gold. So think about if you've ever seen anybody get a gold medal in the Olympics. Normally what they do is they bite into it to test to see if it's real gold. Real gold, you would actually be able to bite into it and you would be able to see the teeth marks. However, nowadays they can't do that because everything is gilded. Now it's mostly like nickel or copper, and then they will actually paint or add gold onto the outside. That's an example of it being gilded. Our dollar coins are the exact same way. And so when you think about it, if I were to take, for example, a whole bunch of seashells and painted them gold, are they suddenly worth anything? No. It's just that painting on the outside. An example of this is wedding rings. This is actually my wedding ring, which, fun fact, has four blue sapphires because I went to Utah State. And if this cost me $1,400, it's made of real gold, but it's not fully real gold. It's plated gold. Had I gone and gotten full gold, it would have been almost 20 grand for the exact same ring. So that's part of the reason why with this gilding is it's a way to be able to cut it on the outside. Gilding itself was oftentimes used, especially in buildings and in crownings, to be able to add to the ceiling and different things like that. Fun fact, by the way, if you play Call of Duty couple weeks ago, and I'm sure you can still buy it today as a blueprint. A couple weeks ago, they had a bundle in the store that was called the Gilded Age, and it was all gold themed. That's what it's relating to, is this idea of gold on the outside, pretty, glimmering, awesome on the outside, and then corrupt on the inside. Although I don't know if that's what they meant by the Gilded Age, but that's what it technically means. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stop there today. I know it doesn't seem like a very long conversation, but again, we spent most of the time in class talking about the incidents that happened yesterday, and we will expand on this next week. Have a great day. Don't forget you're not so typical.